So, okay, magkalaman na. Today is technically our last meeting. Kay tomorrow is ITech. Um, si Jessil. Okay, si Jessil. Si Jessil, pakiliw kus baso ko na ka.
Ay, hello sir. Good morning na ako concern about sa chapter 12 na quiz sir ba kay wala man ko ka quiz supposedly gahapon lang ta to tapos karon lang
Ala,
ko
dili no, Jessil. Dili no. Dili no.
kaso wala pa ko na
Kita, please visit the office today. Kay karon ko pinaka
ay
actually technically log ang schedule karon.
sir
Kindly visit
pwede
the office afternoon. Unsa man?
tomorrow sir or kanang next sir kay wala pa mong gid ko na yan gina ko sir.
Ala, di. Nagit pwede, Jessil.
Okay na
Bitaw.
sir.
Bitaw. Basta, please take your quiz before the final exam. Ha?
Okay sir. Thank you po.
The same
Thank
goes with the others nga na yung mga na-miss nga quizzes ha. Kaya ni-visit the office today. No, para makatake na sa inyo na-miss nga quiz. Okay? Well, by the way, I just would like to inform everyone that today is technically our last meeting, no? Because tomorrow is ITech, and since I will also be taking part, no, as since ako tomorrow, mag-assist ko sa ITech tomorrow as MC, I'll be assisting sa ITech. So, yan na ta mag-meet tomorrow sa lab. Pag nasad ko gamay kay we're supposed to finish pa kung sa patong naman yung topics kay well after tomorrow so Friday wait supposed to mag-meet but because Friday is the only day sa exam, no? So I just would like to inform everyone na ang schedule ni the only day of our schedule for the major exams is on Friday. Isa lang kaadlaw, guys. As much as we wanted to actually gikon siya, that was actually question, no, kay ngano daw sa kaadlaw. And because of that, no, ang new exams will be until 8:30 in the evening. Ambot to nga no giun sa nila. Parang compromise kaya ang inyong time pag-study ana. Maski na lang unta gitaga na lang mo isa ka sa kaadlaw Sabado na ng papel. Wala ko kasabot. I don't know if you are already informed of that one.
Yes, sir. Na-inform me, sir. And
How,
very,
how
para sa mga grabe gid siya ka-stress.
sa
Maka-pressured siya.
buwis
And
buhay kayo, no?
naka-assume na pud mi, sir, nga ang CSTE gyud, sir, tinuod gid day nga ginadaog-daog.
But lagi, we really don't understand why it had to go that way kay uh, actually both Sir Ron and even the department chair of MatEd si Dr. Robles, Sir Dennis, they actually they actually questioned no anong isa ka adlaw. How is that even it's a superhuman, no, superhuman feat kung kaya ninyo tanan, no. um this brings me back to my college days na ang among midterm exams 1 week yun. I mean, ang kuan gani usually ang among exams lang pinakadaghan na duwa sa kadlaw. As in nagi grace period, butan nato. Na exams morning, na exams afternoon, or duha ka exams sa afternoon, so ang morning magamit na mo for studying. Take that 1 week ha. 1 week na siya. So, nga nakakuan and then karon no na karon nga imbis unta o kanang at least na lang unta giduan lang ta kadlaw kana lang gid unta. Yes, French.
Magpa-clarify lang ko sa coverage sir sa special census taman sa reproductive sir no.
Yes, oo.
Okay po.
So kuan lang, I'll try my best to send a recording. Actually, ang atong i-discuss this morning is ang paborito ni Dran, reproductive system. Nga na akong iuna is because it's the one that is longer, no? And ang katong urinary, ako siyang iulahi kay well, in terms of the number of slides, it's less no in number. So unahon ako ang reproductive for today and much of this no, munang giuna po na ako kay I mean, mas daghan mas daghan siya slots and at the same time kani siya no, in the work kanang kumbaga siguro na uban no very curious about this one. Very curious about this system. Okay, so kana lang no. And also, have you checked the guidelines no sa ano ato ang ano naka-check na sa guidelines sa katong sa ano sa final lab requirement ninyo? Naka-check na ba mo?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Okay, sige. Let me just pakita lang kog isa ka sample kay na actually nagpasa gahapon from ano 2C. Let me just remove my background ko dali. Sige. Dala pa sa. Okay. Wala siya guys oh. Submit na sila gahapon. Kay kuan ni nada ilang mga parts sa ubos ginamberan lang nila balik. So you can submit no you can submit this one until May 29 no. Okay, before we proceed, do you have any questions? So far, wala. Okay, kung wala, can proceed na dayon to our next topic. Our next chapter rather. Okay na so far? Can you give me a thumbs up? Okay naman. Okay, sige. Let me proceed, no? Okay. Danira bagyod, no? Kani. Kumbaga, ano na siya, it's controversial na topic for today. No? So this is technically this is the last chapter of of, uh, of our course on anatomy and physiology. No? Okay, let me just share my screen and then let me know if you can see it na. Okay na, kita na guys. Okay na. Guys, okay na, makita ng screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sige, let's proceed, no? So this is on the reproductive system and okay, so this is on the reproductive system and of course, no, among the different systems in our body, this is the one that is well, it's structurally well, anatomically different, no? Between males and females, this is the only system that is anatomically different, no? Because this is the one that differentiates the sexes, whether you are male or female. No? So this is a kanang kwan siya, no? Ato naman na discuss previously na there's a distinction between sex and gender, no? Because sex is this is the ano siya na biological assignment. So you're either a male or female. Gender on the other hand is a social orientation. So how do you present yourself to society? Okay? So our reproductive system ang main character kumbaga sa reproductive system is ang gonads, no? Collectively they're known as gonads because the gonads are the ones that produce the gametes, secrete hormones, and these hormones are the ones that make one a male and makes one a female, no? So in this case, ang gonads nato are the testes for males, no? So, and for the females, it's the ovaries, no? So basically, the testes and the ovaries are for say in this case, the testes is the one that produces the sperm or the spermatozoa, and for the females, it's the one that the ovaries are the ones that produce the ova. Ova kay plural, ovum singular. Okay, so well, we already know about that. Okay. Now let's look at first the anatomy of the reproductive system. No, so let's have first no the as what I've said, this is the main character of this system, testes. No, because these are I would like to call it, or I would like to term this one as the sperm factory. No, so well, this is where sperm is manufactured. No, and then we have the duct system. Duct system is a series of ducts where sperm swims through, and it is muna siya technically ang passageway sa sperm. No? So we have the epididymis, the ductus or the vas deferens in the urethra. No? We will tackle about vas deferens later. Okay? You remember no sa ato ang recent sa showbiz no si Drew Ariano underwent vasectomy and the vas deferens was cut. No, we cut siya. We siya. So that sperm cannot ano siya, di siya makalahos no, di siya ma-deliver towards sa ano, di siya ang payload which is the sperm will not be delivered to the penis no. Okay. And then we have the accessory organs. So these accessory organs, the seminal glands or vesicles, the prostate and the bulbourethral glands, ang iyang function is to create semen. No? It's to create the fluid where kumbaga muna siya ang matrix, the fluid matrix where the sperm can be nourished, no? And it will also help the sperm propel themselves towards the female reproductive tract, no? And then finally, we have the external genitalia, which is of course mga makita outside and kaning common nga gina-drawing sa mga CR sa eskwelahan, no? Dili siya accurate ang pagka-drawing. We have the penis and the scrotum, no? Sa pag-drawing ano? Pangit pagka-drawing. That is anatomically inaccurate na drawing. Yung common ginabanda sa CR say kanang sa mga kanang sa mga sakyanan sa likod or sa kilid nga pag mag-abog-abog drawingan dapat. Okay. So that's for the external genitalia. Okay, so this is the sagittal view, no? This is sagittal side view, no? So we can see here we have the let's have first the accessory organs. So you can see here the seminal vesicle. We have the prostate gland. Okay, prostate gland, which is also component prostate gland is also one of the leading causes of death among males because of prostate cancer. No? Then we have the bulbourethral gland. So each one of them actually secretes a different type of fluid that will nourish the sperm and then help the sperm propel towards the female reproductive system. Okay? And then let's have the nagani uban no kana mga usually mga doctor urologist man usually kung sa lalaki. Kaya sa babae like man ubigay ni man sa babae. Usually kung urologist kung mag-conduct og prostate exam kay kung ano siya, bali, well, technically, kung uton yun ang anus, then the doctor will try to feel the prostate para ma-check kung na ay problema ang prostate. Okay? And then this one, let's have the katong mga ducts. Like, say for example, we have the epididymis after the testis. So this is where the sperm is temporarily stored until it is prepared for ejaculation. So we have here epididymis, and then after this one, it will travel towards this is the vas deferens, no? Or ductus deferens. So as what I mentioned kaganiya, mo ni siya ang ginaputol kung vasectomy, no? Kaya para dili makalaos ang the manufacture ng sperm gikan sa testis. And then after the testis, you have the again padulong sa ampulla, no? So and then makita nato na ay common nga duct, no, ang kaning seminal vesicle ug ang vas deferens gikan sa ampulla. We have the ejaculatory duct. And then as you can see here, makita nato kung magpadali lang French. Yes, French, okay, question?
Sir, kanang kuan
Mm.
sa about sa vasectomy sir ba?
Mm.
Kung maputol lugar na siya sa kanang katong kuan sir, dili na lugar siya makagawas ang sperm sir or malimited lang siya.
Well, technically, produce man gyapon ng males ug sperm but dili na gyud siya ka lahos, no? Kay technically ang basta we say ectomy pag naman gani term nga ectomy, it means to cut. No, a medical procedure man ang ectomy. Kanang basta na ectomy gani, it means nga kailangan siya i-cut. No? Okay. So dili na makalahos ang one. But the males can still produce semen. Okay? Dili siya the male can still produce semen. Kay if you look at this one, kadali lang dra na. Kay if you look at this one, makaproduce man gyapon siya kay naman type seminal vesicle. Dili man siya moagi sa vas deferens. So natin seminal vesicle, prostate, and the bulbourethral gland. So technically makaproduce ka pa ng male o semen but wala na siya sperm. Okay? Yes, Dran.
Follow-up question ko ana sir
Mm.
no ka di ba ana man ka sir nga despite nga maputol ang vas deferens which prevents sa sperm nga mo travel towards the kanang prostate ang
Mm.
kuan ako sir ba is will it the sperm gihapon sir nga mo travel sir ga-spill siya sa inside sa body will which might cause kanang infection since ang di ba ang akong nabalaan sir kay ang mga immune system kay gina-attack nila ang
Mm.
sperm like kay ga-treat siya nga as foreign.
Mm. Actually, for that one, Rano, I cannot give an accurate answer for that one, but as far as my limited knowledge is concerned, for this case, ang production sa sperm will still continue, though I'm not really sure what will be the mechanism or what will happen to those sperm nga na-produce, no? Kay kuan kanang dili ko kuan sa ang accurate na tango pwede maano no. Sige lang, I will go back on that one. Kanang basta ako naibalan lang kay gid ma-halt gid ang ang flow sa sperm kay ang kaning nga duct is very important, no, para makaagi ang sperm, no, padulong sa ampolya para dahil mag-mix na din siya with the semen that is produced by the vesicle, seminal-vesicle, prostate, and bulbourethral gland. Kay lagi no, I see your point there, Dra, no, possibly no i-destroy sa kuan katong mga maproduce nga no. Pero as far as I know kay during vas defense mode kay close mo pugod ni nga siya nga well it will be closed, no. So probably matrap ang kanang sperm in that case. So I cannot give yet an accurate answer for it. So sige lang, I'll try to go back on that one later. Okay? Sige. Balikan ta kadra na. Okay. Anyway, napaman pa yung video nga ako i-share niyo. Okay. So this is now the the other view. I think up view. Sige. So if you look at this one, makita gyud ninyo ang flow, no? Makita niyo ang flow sa ay asa mo agi ang sperm, no, gikan sa epididymis where it is temporarily stored padulong siya sa vas deferens, then it will be before it is prepared for ejaculation there siya sa ampolya magstay ang sperm where and then eventually mixes with the fluids produced by the seminal vesicle, the prostate gland, and the bulbourethral gland. And as you can see guys, no, ang kaning ato ang penis is actually a siya kana I mean a male's penis is technically siya is made up of spongy tissues. Spongy, no? Pag mag magudlas pag if a male is aroused, ang may tabo magod is ma-fill ang kaning penis will be filled with blood, no, therefore stiffening the spongy tissues. Okay, so muna siya that's the reason why the females the male's penis gets erect. Okay. And then we can see here kumbaga pag na equivalent anin sa female which is the clitoris na muna siya sa female, no. And then we have okay na din, no. So yes, let's continue, no. So well, technically ang testis manggod kay napod siya blood vessels and nerves. That's why guys, no, if someone gets kicked on the balls, it's very painful, no? It's actually kumbaga comparable ang pain niya sa kaning woman giving birth. No? Pag masipaan mo sa itlog. So ano na lang yun, no? Sa gangin na lang yun ang yung itlog lang kay pang sipaon mo boys, no? So kana lang. Yes, that's the kay dagan man nerves po, no, and of course blood vessels, no, kailangan po blood supply and testes, okay, para tuloy-tuloy lang ang production sa sperm, okay. And then we have the coverings of the testes. We have the tunica albuginea, which is the capsule that surrounds each testis. So before it reaches the patog yung mga sperm factory sites, no, ang covering niya is ang tunica albuginea before it is covered by the scrotum, no? Scrotum, the skin that covers the testis. And then we have the septa, which are the extensions of the capsule that extend into the testis and divided into lobules. So if you look at this one, mo niyang septum, no? And then the tunica albuginea. So this is what your itlog is made of, no? Okay. So we have here we have the rete testis, where it is kanang ano siya ang ejection point, no? Pag ano na pag initially makaproduce na og kanang, but dire in this part immature pa ang sperm. Kay dire man sa epididymis mag-mature fully ang sperm sa epididymis. Okay? So sperm travels from the rete testis to the epididymis. And then the interstitial cells in the seminiferous tubules produce androgens such as testosterone. So we have the seminiferous tubules here. Kaning testosterone, guys, it contributes to the secondary secondary sex characteristics, no? So these characteristics is what makes a male, no? Defined muscles, no? Deeper voice, chest hair, facial hair, no? Mas prominent nga mga body hair for the males, no? So that is made possible by testosterone, which is produced by the seminiferous tubules with, of course, with directions from the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. Okay, ang males, no, just like females, also produce this what we call follicle stimulating hormone. Okay, so let's continue. So the duct system, ako nag-mention ninyo, so we have the epididymis, the vas deferens, and the ductus deferens, and the urethra. In this case, ang urethra class is kwan siya. Unlike sa females, kaya ang females manggod lahi ang opening sa urethra o ang opening sa vagina to which blood will exit, no? Kaning menstruation sa females, di man ma-exit na vagina, but lahi po ang exit point sa okay? Unlike males, ang sa males ay common ang passageway sa urethra, no? Urethra o ang urethra ang common passageway sa sperm o sa urine. Okay? Okay, very quick lang, no? Ang epididymis is highly convoluted tube. So highly coiled kayo na siya nga tube, no? If you look at this one, no? Taas kayo na siya, no? It's around 6 meters long, but you don't want to stretch that one the entire 6 meters, no? It's found along the posterior lateral side. Na siya sa likod to the side, no? And then the first part, the male duct system. And so what I've said, this is the temporary storage site for immature sperm. And then as it goes through the epididymis, the sperm will eventually mature and develop that tail, the iconic tail of the sperm. And then during ejaculation, sperm are propelled through the ductus deferens or the vas deferens. Okay, let's have the vas deferens. So we have it runs from the epididymis by the spermatic cord through the inguinal canal and arches over the urinary bladder. So, ang ampulya is the end of the ductus or the vas deferens. And then we have the ejaculatory duct, which passes through the prostate to merge with the urethra. So, ang manner of movement po sa sperm is through peristalsis, much like that of the digestive system. Atong slow na murag narrowing sa tube, no? As it propels the sperm all over the urethra. And then during ejaculation, no, the smooth muscle in the walls of the ductus deferens will create peristaltic waves to squeeze sperm forward. No? So muna ni siya ang ano no, muna ni siyang time na ang male will be able to ano na no, mag-release ng sperm, no? Ejaculation or in colloquial terms, mag-jacol. Okay. Okay, di na nato apilon to mga other na mga vulgar terms, no? Okay. So, as you all know, vasectomy is the procedure no, describe na nako ni kagina, it prevents the transportation of sperms sa form of birth control. Although I must say that it's not 100%, it's not 100% safe. Okay? Usually mga 95 to 99% safe lang siya. Okay? May na yung mga cases mong good mo, pwede maburos yapon mo. For usually maka-explain na gid na kay urologist kay ngayon ang possible yapon na siya. So sa dulo nag-comeback lugar ang sperm, possible. No, so I'm not really sure of that one. Okay. How about the urethra? As what I've said, it is the common passageway of urine and sperm. Sige, Dran.
Oh, sir,
Kasi si Dran dyan.
nasad quick question, sir, ba out of curiosity lang, sir, no, nadunggan magud na ko ni before nga, speaking of ejaculation, di ay kay, ganong kailangan man ang male, sir, mag-ejaculate 2 to 3 times a week daw, sir? Like, I mean, mandatory ba gid na siya or it's up to
No,
a...
not really. Kay, ano man yun siya, no? I mean, it's, I'm not really sure with doctors, no? Kay, sila magand ang best to explain that one. But as for me, I guess it's not really necessary. Kay, ay siguro, kay, ang uban mo good, they would say nga, pag ano daw, pag di daw ka mo po di akong ano ha, it's kanang urban kanang taga na kanang hindi siya urban legend kanang paano siya ba kanang it's not a verified information or I have not yet verified this information but I'll try to do a quick research later no nga pag dili daw mag-ejaculate ang lalaki kay pwede daw siya maka-contribute to prostate cancer no. So as with that, I'm not really sure. So I'll try to get back on you on that one. Okay? So same gyapon sa imo gingon Dran, ang doctor agad maka-explain na necessary ba gyud nga dapat tututigtan so ano so dapat pwede lugar no nga well depende na lang kung how you will ejaculate the sperm whether you will do it all by yourself or now with a partner. So kana I'm not really sure with that one. Yes, Dran.
Follow-up question pagid, sir, kaning aside po ana, sir, ba kay tinuod bagid ka na, sir, nga kung when you drink pineapple juice or any sweet daw, sir, kay maka-contribute po daw na sa sweetness sa kuan?
Okay, this is what I'm sure no kay I came across this article before no actually na yes fruits ang it's true na ang inyong diet for males no ang diet sa males is actually it tells also something about your sperm. I mean your semen. For example, if imo daw diet is for example ang diet mo is nine fruits no usually fruits well pineapple di lang pineapple oranges pero basta anything fruits no it contributes to the sweetness of the kay isa man gud sa ginaproduce nga fluid sa fluid for example sa seminal vesicle ang ginaproduce nga fluid kay ay gitawag nga fructose which is a fruit sugar. So if you eat more fruits, more fructose will be added to the semen, therefore contributing to the sweetness. Okay, fructose is a fruit sugar, no? So yeah, apel na siya. Okay. Moto siya Dran. Pwede, it could contribute actually, no? Okay, let's continue no, with the urethral regions. We have the prostatic urethra. The same ko na sa akong gingon, no? So we have the prostatic urethra. Kung asa siya associated dool, for example, it's called prostatic urethra because it's surrounded by the prostate gland. And then we have the membranous urethra. So from the prostatic urethra to penis, and the spongy urethra or the penile urethra. It runs the length of the penis to the external urethral orifice. Katong opening sa gawasanan yun sa ihi. So that's the external urethral orifice. Now, ejaculation causes the internal urethral sphincter to close. Nga naman, ano man good ka ng, if magsagol mo gud ang urine o sperm will easily die. No? Because of the presence of other fluids and ang acidity pod sa ihi. No? Pwede mamatay ang sperm. So it prevents the sperm from entering the urinary bladder. And it also prevents urine from passing into the urethra. So, kung sperm lang yun. Kung ihi, na so naay nga na. Pwede man sa noon kung kumbaga tawag cleansing after nag-ejaculate ng ihi. So, na-clear ang pathway, ma-clear ang pathway na sa sperm, no? Kay niag pag-agihan sa ihi, no? So, usually ingana pad ang gabuhaton sa males, no, labi na kung planning to do birth control, no. Pero dili gusto dili gusto og artificial methods, no. No, so naingana. So daghan man but that's one other topic, no. Okay. So atong anaan ang no seminal vesicles. Okay, so fructose, vitamin C. So sir, healthy din semen. Okay, pwede. And fructose and vitamin C. And it nourishes and activates the sperm. Wala siyang reason nga nung may fructose. Sugar, naman, it helps in nourishing the sperm, no? So it produces, ang seminal vesicles, it produces a thick yellowish lesion. Okay, muna siya ang composition niya. Fructose, sir, tilawan na mo, sir. Ginawa ko. Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, no. So the duct of each seminal vesicle joins that of the ductus deferens on each side of the ejaculatory duct. So kung tanan niyo dire na ay common nga passageway tanawang ejaculatory duct on. So diri ang common passageway ni vas deferens of the seminal vesicle. Okay? Okay, let's look at the prostate. It secretes a milky fluid which helps to activate the sperm, and fluid enters the urethra through small ducts. Di na ito maklaro lang dire, no? But na yung mga smaller ducts dire nga, dire mag-mix sa katong milky fluid na produce ni prostate to help activate the sperm. And then finally, the bulbourethral glands, the smaller ones, kani. The bulbourethral glands, on the other hand, produce a thick, clear mucus. It cleanses the spongy urethra of acidic urine prior to ejaculation. Okay, so pili, no, either you release semen or you release urine. So mucus serves as a lubricant during sexual intercourse. Okay, so naay yan, no. So sa gani gataw dahil man po na in the case of pre-ejaculative fluid o kanang gitawag nga pre-cum, dahil po na siya kay it actually contains sperm. Ano siya, delikado po na siya, no? Kalagyan nila ng pre-cum na ba po kato nag-penetrate sa during the sexual intercourse, no? So possibly possibly may mapugkang tatay. Dahil ngayon nga pag ang trust ay nabutas, tatay ka nabukas. Okay. Anyway, so much for that one, no? Okay. Katawa lagi ni isa dito. Nagkatawa si Dulce o si Pres. Okay, anyway. So we have here, no? So semen is a milky white mixture of sperm and accessory gland secretions. Okay? And then these are the accessory gland secretions. So we have the liquid portion, which acts as a transport medium to dilute sperm. And then sperm streamlined cellular tadpoles. Okay, mas tadpole ang shape, no? And as what I've said, ang fructose will provide energy for sperm cell. And unlike the environment of the vagina, ang semen is alkaline. That is intended kung sa chemistry pa na, no? 'Di ba? Kung imong ikuan, if you mix something acidic with something alkaline or base, it is neutralized. Okay? And then finally also semen can inhibit bacteria. Okay? Because of its alkaline nature. And then we have the scrotum and the penis. So the scrotum, kani base ako naman yung na-explain previously no nga kailangan man gud og kaning gitawag nga temperature agree naglumba gid sang duha kadali lang French and Bran ha ang kaning gitawag nga ang production sa sperm good kailangan siya kanang temperature nga gani it needs a temperature that is kanang ideal for the production so it should be slightly 3 degrees Celsius lower so in this case kung lower kung lower ang temperature, ideal siya for production sperm. That explains why kung init kayo, expectedly ang inyong itlog yun boys magbitay. Pero kung bugna po the testis will ascend, it will go up. Muna siya murag mo mukipos ang inyong kaning scrotum kay nisaka ang testis sa taas. Okay? Okay, so before we continue kay murag nalapay burning question diri atong duha ka classmates ninyo. Sige French and then after the French si Bran. Sige French.
Kanang sa kuan sir ba katong sa kuan bitaw sir kanang components sa sperm sir. Di ba lahi-lahi kanang sa kay sir kay kanang lagkit siya o sa pod kay rani siya sir. So dili ra asa na siya dapit lugar siya nga mo component lugar siya gakuan sir dito sa katong fluid katong sa siya sir nga
Oh,
fluid.
sa fluid most likely most likely friends sa kuan siya sa seminal vesicle kay much of the other components nung kanang which provides the nutrients for the sperm kay naa siya sa seminal vesicle. That's why also no mailan pag yun ninyo kung mailan pag yun ninyo kung ang tawag ang male pag yun kay kainom gid siya og tubig o ga-hydrate pag siya sperm or gaano kay usually less mo gud ang sperm ang produce kundi pag ga-hydrate yung taro ang male no. Sige Dran before we proceed.
Yes sir, another na pod sir no, since since the mention man nimo sir and along with the PPT nga ang fructose kay maka-provide sa energy for the sperm to swim. So usay connect lugar ay does it connect sir sa kanang the rate or the days nga ang female kay ma-fertilize ang egg like for instance dili ba siya wala ba siya fix nga day nga ang female kay ma-fertilize ang egg in ani nga day but
Ah,
it depends on how the sperm swims po according sa amount of fructose nga iyang amount of fructose nga naa present sa semen sir.
Sige, ano siya. As far as I know, ang sperm can live up to 3 days. As far as I know, sa ako nagbalaan, 72 hours. It can survive in the female reproductive tract for 72 hours. So that's why kailangan yun ang enough yun nga fructose and actually hindi lang fructose but other components of the semen in order to help the sperm survive the acidic environment of the vagina. Okay? Muna siyang need siya og kanang muna siya nga kanang for example no kanang bitawng labi na lang mga couples ito nga unexpectedly no kanang wala silang expect na uh, we were ano man safe man mi adto wala na realize sa ano ba for example ano na naitabo de kay namagot gitaw nga for the females sa gitaw nga fertility window. Like naipipila ka days nga ma-consider gyapon siya as unsafe no to do intercourse. Kay again, as what I've said, a sperm can survive up to 3 days no sa female reproductive tract. So, for example, okay na mag 1 me. Okay na mag sex me kay kuan kanang taga ni. Okay ra mag mi kay bago pa siya magdugo no. Careful no pwede gyapon na I came across an article na anytime during the woman cycle pwede siya maburos even during menstruation pwede gyapon no. So again no, kung no, kung di man gyud mapugan ang mga pagbati, no, i-divert na lang yun ang divert na lang yun ang kanang ano na kanang libido to something else. Okay? So anyway, going back no, ayop na answer na ko ang question Ran. But again, crucial na ang 72 hours mga window, no. Kung di gyud mapugngan, but if you have to do it, please do it safe. No, mo gyud na. No? Please do it safe. Okay? So yeah, that's we have the regions of the penis, the shaft. The shaft is the entire length of the penis. No? Muna siya usually ang gina-refer to as the size. No? The size matter. Okay, we also have the glans penis or the enlarged tip and the prepuce or the foreskin. Usually, pag magpa-circumcise in the Filipino culture, essential yun or it's part of the Filipino culture nga magpatuli yun o kaning circumcision. So, isa mo sa reason na kay ano man god especially by the time that the male reaches kanang adolescence, gisugod namang good og produce sa sperm during adolescence. That's why ano no kanang ang actually ang circumcision is very beneficial to males because it actually makes your penis clean, no? Makes your penis clean pag direct pag kanang especially pag mag-wash kay yun naman pag intact ang foreskin mong god adagan magud ma-trap di ang mga fluids no nga dili dayon magawas pag dili magawas tungod kay naa man ang foreskin nga mag-close, no. I mean it encloses the glans penis or the tip, no. That's why it's essential part of the Filipino culture, no. And it actually looks clean kung pagkuan. But naman yung ibang cultures kan dili nila nag-observe. Like example, no, sa Europe, as far as I know, Europe mga tawag nila na mga pisot. So na yung mga ingana nga na yung mga ingana cultures that do not observe circumcision. Okay? So anyway, no, there are 3 areas of spongy erectile tissue on the urethra. So erections occur when this erectile tissue fills with blood during sexual excitement. So if you get excited, no, because well, if you get excited kay that is part of the sexual arousal, no. Muna siyang reason nga no, the penis becomes stiff, no, tungod kay napuno siya og blood. Spongy man siya nga connective tissue ang sud sa penis, no. So please dispel the myth nga bukog dili bukog ang isa. It's a spongy tissue. Okay? Di po na siya muscle, it's a spongy tissue. Okay? And these tissues are filled with blood vessels, and once the male gets sexually aroused, no, or sexually excited, that is the time where the penis is filled with blood. Okay. Okay. So well, the chief roles of the male reproductive process is to produce sperm and also to make the male a male. Testosterone, the hormone that is responsible for the maleness. Okay, now sperm are produced in the seminiferous tubules of the testis. Okay? And then dili na kay nako i-explain ning kaning sperm production or kaning gitawag nga spermatogenesis because we have covered this one in our genetics class before. Ato na ning nakawa sa genetics class. So dili na kay nako siya expound. Instead, I'll be sharing with you a video by Crash Course. Sige. Bilang ha, kasi i-share ang video. Maybe na po yung mga uban questions niyo matubag po sa video. Sige, I'll be sharing it with you. Very quick lang class. Okay? Ano yung pasa? Okay, allow me to share my screen class. Okay, can you see the screen? Can you see the screen class? Last, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sige. Ako lang. Let's take it by ear.
Sex is a big gamble. I mean, the mental risks alone that we take with our relationships are taxing enough. When is he gonna text me back? Am I good enough? What if she doesn't like the real me? But the emotional price we pay for intimacy can almost seem paltry compared to the physical investments that our bodies make in order to reproduce. And the sexes each make this wager differently. The female gamete is, biologically speaking, a big bet. It's like putting all your chips on black. An ovum and a follicle take over a year to develop, and as human cells go, it's huge, about 1/10 of a millimeter, just large enough to be seen with the naked eye. Plus, it requires a whole network of supporting tissues in the uterus while it waits for fertilization, which, if that doesn't happen, then have to be shed and rebuilt a month later. And then there's the commitment. Once an egg has been ovulated, everything in the female reproductive system is dedicated to dealing with that one cell for almost a month. And if it gets fertilized, you're looking at 10 months. So when it comes to playing the reproductive roulette wheel, the male reproductive system takes the opposite strategy. If female gametes amount to a high-stakes bet, the males are basically the penny slots. Human sperm are only about 100,000th the mass of an egg, and they're almost as easy to produce as skin cells. Actually, the process by which they mature is pretty similar. That's because sperm are small and stripped down, not invested in much beyond a nucleus and a tail and some extra mitochondria to fuel the journey. All they have to do is drop their DNA and fall apart. The risk of failure is still there. In fact, with male gametes, the odds are overwhelmingly against any single sperm actually accomplishing its mission. But while the female reproductive system meets this risk head-on with a single big play, the male's tries to beat the odds with sheer force of numbers. Here's a question for you. Why are the most important parts of the male's reproductive system literally left hanging? The testes, the gonads of the anatomical male, are tasked with making male gametes, sperm, and the androgen hormone testosterone. But unlike the ovaries, which are protected inside the body, testicles dangle outside the abdominal cavity in the scrotum. Because even though sperm may not be terribly big or complex, they're touchy when it comes to temperature. The rate at which they divide, copy DNA, and even feel the effects of some hormones are all diminished at the core body temperature of 37 degrees. So the testes have to be outside the body cavity to reach the lower temperature necessary for proper spermatogenesis or sperm production. It's a rare instance of sensitivity among what are otherwise pretty hardy and expendable cells. But that's not to say that the testes aren't complex. Each one is divided into about 250 sections called lobules, which are loaded with tightly coiled seminiferous tubules. These tubules are the sperm factories, made of a stratified epithelium surrounding a central fluid-filled lumen. And this sperm-making work is supported by cells throughout and around the tubules. Among the most important are the Sertoli cells inside the tubes, which nourish developing sperm cells, sort of like how female follicle cells help oocytes. There are also Leydig cells that secrete testosterone, much like the corpus luteum that secretes estrogen. But compared to egg making, spermatogenesis is, as I mentioned, a pretty cheap and easy process biologically. It's kind of like how your skin cells are produced, with stem cells at the basal layer that produce immature cells, which in turn get forced toward the surface as they mature. But in this case, the sperm develop on the outer edge of the tubule and progress inward toward the lumen. And it all begins with a trigger that, if you've seen our lesson on female reproduction, should look pretty familiar. A hormonal cascade. When puberty comes a-knockin', the hypothalamus starts releasing gonadotropin-releasing hormone, or GnRH, and this tells the anterior pituitary to secrete follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone into the blood, just like in females. But in females, LH leads to the release of estrogen in the follicles, whereas in males, it spurs the Leydig cells to release testosterone. Meanwhile, the FSH triggers the Sertoli cells to release androgen-binding protein, protein, or ABP. This binds to the testosterone, creating large local concentrations of this stuff, which is ultimately what triggers the production of sperm. The targets of the testosterone are the outermost cells in the tubules called spermatogonia. They're the stem cells that set the sperm-making process in motion by dividing. And actually, they've been doing that all along, even before puberty. Throughout childhood, a spermatogonia cell uses mitosis to continually divide into two identical daughter cells. So when puberty starts, the testosterone causes them to divide differently. Instead of splitting into two identical spermatogonia cells, they begin producing two distinct spermatogonia. One type of daughter cell, known as a type A cell, stays up near the basal lamina and just keeps dividing so you never run out of spermatogonia. But the other kind, the type Bs, get pushed down the tubule toward the lumen and turn into primary spermatocytes. These primary spermatocytes then go into meiosis I and form two smaller haploid cells called secondary spermatocytes. They then rush through meiosis II, and their resulting daughter cells total 4 round spermatids. These spermatids now have all of the 23 chromosomes they need for fertilization, but they aren't exactly mobile. If they're ever gonna find themselves an egg, they need a way to get around. They need a tail. The process by which a spermatid elongates, grows a tail or flagellum, and officially becomes a mobile sperm is called spermiogenesis. And the whole process takes about 5 weeks, but it's not like it holds anything up because there are plenty more where those spermatids came from. In the end, each primary spermatocyte gives rise to 4 actual sperm, and considering how many spermatogonia are continuously dividing into spermatocytes, it's easy to see how a mature male can crank out 1,500 sperm a second. That's a far cry from all the investment that goes into making a single ovum. Now, obviously, if sperm are gonna get anything accomplished, they have to leave the seminiferous tubules that made them, so even once they have tails, they still need a little help getting going. That's why each tubule is surrounded by several layers of myoid cells, which, like smooth muscle, rhythmically contract using peristalsis to squeeze sperm and some fluid secreted by the Sertoli cells through all the twists and turns toward their next destination, the rete testis in the posterior testis. From there, the sperm, although still immobile, leave the testes by way of the epididymis, a long tangled set of tubes behind the testes where they'll spend the next few weeks gaining their mobility. The bulk of the epididymis consists of the enormous duct of the epididymis, which, believe it or not, could be uncoiled to stretch about 6 meters. Though I don't suggest doing that. This duct is full of tiny microvilli called stereocilia, which provide a huge surface area to help reabsorb some extra fluid and help pass along nutrients to feed the idling sperm. It takes sperm nearly 20 days to work their way through this labyrinth, during which time they continue to mature. Once through the duct, they enter the inferior epididymis, where they gain mitochondria, so they'll have energy to swim hard at a moment's notice. At this point, they have all the hardware to swim, but still lack the ability to actually move on their own, a skill kept under wraps until they leave the epididymis and get activated by a series of glandular secretions. When that time comes, during ejaculation, the sperm flow from the epididymis through the vas deferens, a tube that travels up behind the bladder and joins with the duct from the seminal gland to create the ejaculatory duct. The left and right ejaculatory ducts pass into the prostate gland, where they empty into the urethra, which runs from the bladder through the penis and into the outside world. This system of tubes feeding into tubes allows all of the necessary glands to make their contributions to a moving wave of seminal fluid that helps sperm mature and perform their ultimate function: fertilization. The resulting mix of sperm, testicular fluid, and gland secretions, which we call semen, provides sperm with transportation, nutritional energy, chemical protection, and finally, activates their motility. So let's take a look at these glands. The seminal vesicles are a pair of small, hollow glands behind the bladder that secrete a yellowish, slightly alkaline fluid that contains coagulating enzymes, fructose, and other things to help nourish and transport sperm. Interestingly, the vesicles also secrete special prostaglandins that help increase sperm success outside the body by decreasing the viscosity of a female's cervical mucus and actual actually triggering a reverse peristalsis of the uterus that helps draw sperm up the female reproductive tract. Now, the prostate gland encircles the urethra just inferior to the bladder. During ejaculation, it contracts to squeeze its own special secretion into the urethra. This stuff contains mainly citric acid and an enzyme cocktail that helps keep semen liquefied and thus easier to move and swim through. And finally, we have the pea-sized bulbourethral glands below the prostate that secrete a clear mucus that drains into the urethra to clear out any acidic urine prior to ejaculation. Speaking of, by now you may be wondering if we're ever gonna get to what's probably the first thing you think of when it comes to the male anatomy. The penis hangs from the perineum between the pubic bone and coccyx. It consists of a shaft that ends in an enlarged tip called the glans penis, surrounded by a fleshy cuff of foreskin. Internally, the penis contains 3 layers of erectile tissues, each wrapped in a layer of dense, fibrous connective tissue. This spongy network is made of connective tissue and smooth muscle that's full of tiny vascular spaces that fill with blood during sexual arousal and make the penis expand and become rigid. The resulting erection is what helps the penis penetrate the vagina. And the fact that we're only now getting around to talking about it here at the end should tell you that, as with the female external genitalia, the penis isn't actually all that important in terms of overall reproductive function. Evolutionarily speaking, it's just a delivery system designed to get male gametes as close as possible to female gametes and reap some payoff for their investments. Now, what that payoff looks like in terms of fertilization is where we're headed next week. But for now, you learned probably all you'd ever care to know about testicular anatomy, the steps of sperm production, and how it's influenced by gonadotropin and testosterone. We also looked at how sperm mature and how they leave the body on a tide of glandular secretions during ejaculation. Thank you to our headmaster of learning, Linnea Boyev, and thank you to
All right. So before we continue, no, I just would like to wait lang. Subshare sa day ko. So I just would like to confirm to everyone, no, nga, from this point, no, ay padayon na lang nato ang videos kay since we don't have much time already. Although I'll try to also send a recording, no, katong sa mga parts na dili nato ma-appeal o discuss kay para may additional material to study. Okay? Sige. So allow me to continue na lang with the rest of the videos. There are actually 4. So nauman ta sa first. Let's continue with the female reproductive system, the process of fertilization, and then finally the process of the development of the fetus as it grows inside the mother's body. Let's have this one. Sige. Sige, this time let's have the female reproductive.
Maybe you've noticed that every time we talk about a new system, we highlight its importance by saying how you die without it. Like, without your muscular and skeletal systems, you'd collapse into an inert bag of goo. Or how, if we magically removed your respiratory or circulatory system, you'd die in a couple of minutes because your cells wouldn't have oxygen. That's because most of our body's systems are just trying to keep us alive minute to minute. But one of those systems doesn't really care if you live or die, at least not until it's done its job. It's how every living thing gets its start, but it doesn't really kick in until puberty, and even then, it's more concerned about investing in the future than keeping you alive. When it comes to your reproductive system, it's not concerned about you so much as it's concerned about your alleles, your genetic code, and the future of the human species, which are no small stakes. This system includes our primary internal sex organs, the gonads, like testes and ovaries, the various sex hormones they secrete, and the gametes, sperm and eggs, they produce. It also includes the glands, ducts, external genitalia, and particular brain parts that help the gonads and gametes do what they need to do, which basically is mate, combine alleles, and make babies. Now, all animals have their own particular and fascinating anatomical methods for getting their gametes together, and we could do a whole course just on that and never run out of material, and let me tell you, I would like to do that. But while we may seem kinda tame compared to animals that turn bright red or bite off penises or starve themselves for a chance to breed, our systems are still pretty complex. In fact, it's gonna take most of the month to get through all of our various anatomical parts and hormones and explain how sexy time, fertilization, pregnancy, and development work, starting today with the female anatomy. And remember, this is nothing to be shy about. When talking about sex, we're talking about the future of humanity. So when we talk about sex, we're talking about spreading our alleles around, but when we visualize sex, most of what we picture are our anatomies. Who has what and what goes where. In an anatomical female, that involves the vulva, which includes the mons pubis over the pubic bone, and labia majora and labia minora, the elongated skin folds that surround the vestibule, which contains both the urethral and vaginal openings. Beyond that is the vagina, which I'm sure you know is how menstrual blood and babies leave the body and how sperm gets in. But as much as we tend to put all the focus on the bathing suit parts, those are only the genitalia, the external sexual organs. And they're really just a means of getting gametes together. Reproductively speaking, they're the least important parts of the system. The ground control of the female reproductive anatomy, the place where the orders are given, are of course the ovaries. Their main job is to produce and release female gametes and sex hormones like estrogen and progesterone. You'll remember from biology that gametes are haploid cells, meaning that they only have one set of chromosomes and are formed by meiosis. When a sperm fuses with an egg, they make a diploid cell, which has all the genetic instructions required to make a baby, and pretty much everything about how our reproductive systems work is designed to make that happen. Each ovary lives inside a fibrous sac that consists of a layer of connective tissue called the tunica albuginea and another layer of cuboidal epithelial cells called the germinal epithelium, which is actually part of the peritoneum that lines the abdominal cavity. The ovary itself contains a cortex that houses developing eggs and a medulla that contains most of the ovary's blood vessels and nerves. But the business of passing on alleles and saving humanity really begins in the basic reproductive units in the cortex, the ovarian follicles. These are tiny sac-like structures that each hold a single primary oocyte, a sort of incomplete proto-egg, along with a bunch of supporting follicle cells around it. Females are born with essentially all of these early versions of eggs in all of the primordial follicles they will ever have, around 1 million at the time of birth. But right around birth, the oocytes stop developing. They get stuck at the first stage of meiosis, and they stay that way for years, sometimes forever. The actual process of egg creation, or oogenesis, is delayed until puberty, when the rest of the body is physically ready to reproduce. Now, this works differently for us than it does for some other animals. Like if you're a salmon or a mayfly, then all of your eggs will mature at once, and then you'll mate, reproduce, and usually die in quick succession. I mean, people talk about living fast and dying young, but that's too fast. So human eggs mature one by one, almost constantly, doled out so that every month or so a mature egg is either fertilized or dies to make way for a new egg. This should all sound familiar if you were born with female anatomy or know anyone who was, because it's a big part of the well-known monthly menstrual cycle. But the truth is, menstruation is only one part of one cycle. The menstrual cycle is what happens in the uterus to prepare for a fertilized egg. The other cycle, the ovarian cycle, is all about the maturation of the follicle and egg, and it's what actually drives the menstrual cycle. Every day, even before birth, a bunch of follicles will begin a process of maturation, very slowly morphing from primordial follicles into what's known as late tertiary follicles, which are the ones that will support a fully developed egg. This process takes 375 days. But out of that bunch of follicles, usually about 20 or so, only one follicle will end up supporting a single mature egg. The rest won't get the hormonal boost they need to bring the egg to completion. This is what happens to the ones that start maturing before puberty, for example, so they undergo atresia, a kind of programmed self-destruction. And because I keep mentioning puberty, which you've probably been through yourself, it should come as no surprise that all of this activity is regulated by sex hormones. hormones. Starting around puberty, the hypothalamus and pituitary set up two concurrent cycles: the ovarian cycle in the ovaries, which ripens eggs and secretes sex hormones, and the menstrual or the uterine cycle, which prepares the uterus to capture and nourish any mature fertilized eggs. When puberty begins, the hypothalamus starts up the ovarian cycle by secreting gonadotropin-releasing hormone about once a month. This is a sex hormone that stimulates the anterior pituitary to release two more hormones: follicle-stimulating hormone, you'll often hear it called FSH, and luteinizing hormone, or LH. The follicle-stimulating hormone lives up to its name by stimulating the growth of a follicle, but only one, the one that happens to be the furthest along in development at the time. The FSH drives that one lucky follicle to keep growing by triggering the follicle itself to secrete its own estrogen hormones, which locally signal the follicle to mature even more. That surge of follicle-secreted estrogen then ends up stimulating the pituitary to secrete another pulse of luteinizing hormone to finish the job. The LH gets to work on the oocyte that's been dormant inside the follicle and triggers it to finally start dividing again, getting it to complete meiosis 1 and move on to metaphase 2. This whole process takes about 14 days, at the end of which the follicle, which is now mature, pushes up against the ovary wall, ruptures, and with the help of enzymes breaches the wall and ejects a single, now mature oocyte. Congratulations! You've just ovulated. The damaged follicle now slows its estrogen production while morphing into a different structure called the corpus luteum, which eventually degenerates. But first, it releases its final hormonal swan song: a bunch of progesterone, a little bit of estrogen, and some inhibin that together stop the release of FSH and LH. They also prepare the uterus to receive the oocyte, which is now on its way down a fallopian tube where it might meet a nice young sperm. The tubes are about 10 centimeters long, and interestingly, they aren't actually connected to the ovaries. This means that when the egg pushes through the ovary, it has to float a short way through the peritoneal cavity before it's caught up by a fallopian tube. Now, only if and when an egg fuses with a sperm does it actually complete meiosis 2 and officially become an ovum. But whether it's fertilized or not, the egg works its way down the tube until it enters the uterus, a hollow, thick-walled, and very stretchable muscular organ that sits anterior to the rectum and posterior-superior to the bladder and ends with the cervix. And the uterine wall is composed of 3 layers: the perimetrium on the outside, the bulky, smooth muscle myometrium that contracts during labor, and the inner mucosal lining, the endometrium, which consists of a thin, deep basal layer and an outer functional layer. If fertilization does happen, then the new embryo snuggles into the endometrium for gestation, but the uterus is only receptive to implantation for a short time, about a week after ovulation. If the egg isn't fertilized, that outer functional layer sloughs off. And that's the first phase of the uterine or menstrual cycle, the series of changes that the endometrium goes through every 28 days or so in response to changing hormone levels and in coordination with the ovarian cycle. The shedding of the functional layer is triggered when the progesterone and estrogens that were being produced by the corpus luteum start to drop, about 10 days after ovulation. This phase lasts about 5 days. Meanwhile, the FSH and LH released from the anterior pituitary start to rise again, stimulating the next round of follicles, which begin to make estrogen. This heralds the start of phase 2 of the menstrual cycle, the proliferative or pre-ovulatory phase, which typically lasts from days 6 to 14 of the cycle. The rising estrogen levels in the follicles stimulate the regeneration of the endometrium, building a cushy, well-vascularized habitat for another potential fertilized egg to call home. And after the next egg is released, the final secretory or post-ovulatory phase begins. This is when the ruptured follicle forms in the corpus luteum, and if fertilization didn't happen, the corpus will stop producing progesterone and the endometrium will start to shed its functional layer, and it starts all over again. But if by this time the egg has met a nice sperm and gotten fertilized, then the pulse of progesterone from the corpus triggers even more thickening of the functional layer of the endometrium and a secretion of nutrients that will tide an embryo over until it has implanted itself in the blood-rich lining. Which is a big if. Like its whole separate video big, so that's where we're gonna go next time. But for now, you learned all about female reproductive anatomy, how sex hormones affect oogenesis and ovulation, and how the ovarian and menstrual cycles mature and release oocytes and create a comfy uterine environment for fertilized egg. Thank you to our headmaster of learning, Linnea Boyev, and thank you to all of our Patreon patrons whose monthly contributions help make Crash Course exist not only for themselves, but for everyone everywhere. If you like Crash Course and want to help us keep making videos like this one, you can go to patreon.com/crashcourse. Sex is a big gamble. I mean, the mental risks alone. Welcome to the main event. After weeks of talking about our reproductive parts and how they work, today we finally discuss what happens when those parts come together to do what they were born to do, the sex. But first, let's talk about what we won't be talking about. We're not going to give any advice. We're not going to talk about STIs, even though some STIs can affect conception. We're also not going to talk about sexual behavior or mate selection, and there will be no discussion of birds or bees. And while people have sex in lots of different ways and for lots of different reasons, we're only going to be talking about the kind of sex that could lead to fertilization. We are going to talk about contraception, though, in terms of how and where and when different kinds can prevent fertilization. And we're going to look at what exactly is going on in your body before, during, and after sex, in the most very safe for work clinical terms possible. Humans have been experiencing coitus for as long as they could be called humans, and actually before that, because obviously there would be no humans without the sex. And although it's something that generally comes pretty naturally, it wasn't until the late 1950s and 60s that anyone thought to look at the physiological science behind the act of sex. So an American gynecologist, William Masters, and sexologist Virginia Johnson kicked off their unprecedented and controversial research into the so-called human sexual response cycle. They began by inviting hundreds of male and female volunteers to come into the lab and have sex in the name of science. Though it wasn't as voyeuristic as it might sound. Outfitted with loads of wires and heart monitors, volunteers were periodically interrupted in the middle of the act to be measured. 10,000 trials or so later, Masters and Johnson found out some interesting stuff. Namely, that a typical complete sexual cycle runs through 4 distinct phases: excitement, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. During the excitement phase, things are just getting going. Sexual arousal triggers the parasympathetic reflex that causes arterioles in the external genitalia to dilate and fill with blood, which is actually one of the only times the parasympathetic system controls any arterial action. The plateau phase is marked by increased muscle tension, heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rates. Here, the male urethral sphincter contracts to make sure urine doesn't mix with semen. During orgasm, pelvic and other muscles around the body contract rhythmically as an anatomical male ejaculates, releasing the sperm that might just get a chance to fertilize an egg, depending on the situation. Female orgasm is not required for conception, and some may never experience one, but if it does happen, the resulting uterine contractions and increased lubrication can help draw up and hold sperm in the uterus. As the body relaxes after all that excitement, it enters the resolution phase. Here we see males entering a refractory period that may last several minutes to a day or two, during which they are usually unable to reach orgasm again. Anatomical females are thought to not need this timeout physiologically, though they may need it physically. Instead, some females are capable of serial orgasms, one after the other. Masters and Johnson's works has its share of critics, many of whom point out that not everyone fits into their 4-stage mold, and that things are not always quite so linear in the heat of the moment. But overall, their core physiological framework is still accepted. Now, regardless of exactly how sex happens, if it involves a fertile anatomical female and male, and the timing is right, it could ultimately end with fertilization. So how do a single little ovum and an even tinier sperm come together to make a fertilized egg or zygote that divides and multiplies and grows into the trillions of cells that make up the glorious, complex individual that is you? You'll remember that during ovulation, about once a month, an ovary releases a secondary oocyte that heads down the fallopian tube and toward the uterus. That oocyte has a window of about a day or less to meet a sperm before it's no longer viable. But that being said, sperm sperm can persist in the female reproductive tract for as much as 3 to 5 days, which means for fertilization to occur, they have to either be in place during ovulation, or they have to arrive no more than a day after. But now I feel like I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's go back to how sperm typically gets into the anatomical female body in the first place. During sex, if a male ejaculates into a female's vaginal canal, millions of hopeful sperm will be on their way. Despite the fact that they only have about a dozen or so centimeters to go, their journey isn't for the faint of heart. Luckily, they don't have hearts. The truth, of course, is that most sperm never reach an oocyte. Some just go in the wrong direction, others are killed in the strange new acidic environment of the vaginal canal, and millions more failed to penetrate the gauntlet of mucus that surrounds the cervix. Even the ones that swim hard enough in the right direction and manage to reach the uterus may then be culled by defending resident white blood cells. In fact, sometimes only a dozen or so of the original millions make it through all those trials to actually reach an oocyte. But even if they do, it's still not over for them. The sperm that do make it to the uterus and then the fallopian tube have another hurdle to overcome because they can't actually penetrate an oocyte. Not yet. They could literally hang out right next to one for hours and be unable to make a move until they are what's known as capacitated and go through one last set of changes. As they swim through the cervix, uterus, and fallopian tube, female secretions start to degrade some of the sperm's protective proteins until the cap on the tip of its little head, called the acrosome, is fragile enough that it can leak special hydrolytic enzymes. Those enzymes are the key to getting through the oocyte's protective outer layers. But before that, it has to weave through the granulosa cells that form the oocyte's outermost layer, known as the corona radiata. Once it's past that, it runs into the zona pellucida, a layer of glycoprotein that covers the oocyte's plasma membrane. And this is where it starts to get a warmer reception. This layer has specific sperm receptors waiting for it to bind to, and when it does, it opens a bunch of calcium channels which flood the sperm with calcium ions. These ions trigger the final acrosomal reaction that releases the enzymes the sperm needs to work through the zona pellucida. Now, a number of sperm make it to this phase, and in terms of strategy or luck, it's best to arrive on the scene after your compadres have already been hard at work digesting holes through the pellucida, because once a path is cleared, a lucky sperm can wiggle against the now exposed oocyte membrane until it locks onto another set of sperm-binding receptors. And when a sperm docks into one of those, the membrane of the sperm fuses with the innermost membrane of the oocyte, and the contents of the sperm enter the oocyte proper. Then something pretty cool happens. Remember that the egg is still just a secondary oocyte here and hasn't completed meiosis. As the sperm delivers its payload, it causes a flash of calcium ions from the oocyte's endoplasmic reticulum. This tells the secondary oocyte to get ready to complete its second meiotic division, but it also triggers the reaction that suddenly seals the egg by destroying all the leftover sperm receptors in the membrane, preventing any other sperm from weaseling in. The oocyte then quickly completes meiosis too, leaving two daughter cells, the large ovum and a puny second polar body. Meanwhile, the sperm's detached nucleus swells up to 5 times its original size, forming the male pronucleus, one of 2 sort of protonuclei that contain each gamete's genetic information. The other one, the female pronucleus, takes shape from the nucleus of the ovum, and then the two start to approach each other, pulled along a protein scaffolding or mitotic spindle between the two. When the membranes of the two pronuclei rupture, chromosomes go flying, and boom, you officially have a diploid zygote, which almost immediately starts mitosis. And that, folks, is how you fertilize an egg. But even though our bodies are made to have lots of sex and babies, there are plenty of people who are interested in enjoying the sex part without enjoying the baby part. And given all the things that usually need to go right to achieve fertilization and implantation, a little disruption at some stage along the way is usually all you need to remain baby-free. So folks have been experimenting with various herbal, chemical, physical, and behavioral methods of contraception for centuries, for millennia, some of which have been pretty nutty, like drinking cocktails laced with lead, or wearing weasel testicle amulets and rabbit butts, or shoving herbs in places where herbs should not go. But of course, contraception has come a long way in recent years. In cultures that provide access to it, folks have a wide range of contraception options, you know, in addition to abstinence. First, if you're really sure you don't want kids, or more kids, sterilization is an option. During a tubal ligation or vasectomy, appendectomy procedure. A doctor snips, blocks, burns, or ties up the fallopian tubes or vas deferens, effectively ending the gamete express by permanently preventing the sperm and egg from ever getting to the penis or uterus. But those who prefer a less permanent option also have lots of choices. We've got barrier methods that work mostly by physically keeping sperm and egg on either side of a wall, which is usually made of latex. Condoms, of course, cover the penis and catch ejaculated sperm before it can go anywhere, while diaphragms, sponges, cervical caps, and female condoms are inserted into the vagina where they can form a wall over the cervix, turning sperm away. Hormonal methods of contraception, like the pill or any number of newer shots, patches, and rings, use synthetic estrogen and progestin to prevent the progression of the ovarian cycle to ovulation, and sometimes make changes to the functional uterine layer, the endometrium, and cervical mucus to help deter sperm. An IUD, or intrauterine device, is a small T-shaped object a medical provider inserts into the uterus to prevent zygotes from implanting. And the implantation is key, because even if a sperm and egg manage to complete fertilization, in order for gestation to take place, the zygote has to find a home for itself in the uterus pretty quickly so it gets the nutrients it needs to continue developing. So that's what we're going to be talking about next time. It takes a long time to talk about all the ways we make a baby, but it's important. But for now, you learned about the 4 phases of the human sexual response, how a sperm finds and fertilizes an egg, creating a zygote, and how different types of contraception work to prevent that from happening. Thank you to our headmaster of learning, Linnea Boyev, and thank you to all of our Patreon patrons whose monthly contributions.
All right, plus, so since we don't have much time, no, we have to stop here. Medyo sad ko kay we cannot meet tomorrow, and we cannot say, I cannot even say my formal ano no kana marag pansin niyo for I mean words of gratitude for you for a wonderful semester, no. But well, we're sorry. Now since we have an activity tomorrow, no. I'll try to send the parts no nga wala na to discuss, particularly katong sa uh, parts sa the process of fertilization, as well as the process of development of the new individual inside the mother's womb. And also, finally, I will also include the discussion on the urinary system. Okay? So, siguro pinakadugay na ako man-send siya tomorrow, since we also have an activity in ITech tomorrow. So, very short na lang siguro, no? I would just would like to thank everyone for wonderful semester, and I'm very happy to be your instructor once again. And maybe we can see each other again on summer, because on mid-year, because initially ang gihatag sa kami sa Romy na subject will be PTL1, magkita summer. I don't mid-year. Yes, Dulce, before I dismiss you, same question.
Excuse me, sir. Present po dagok, sir. Kanang nakishare ko nga
Nakishare-
ati si po, sir. Kanang anong load ganyan, sir. Nahurot,
na
sir.
all
Thank you.
na all board mates mo.
Sir, sa naga po, sir, nalagog sulod.
Okay, sige. Ito mga late old slot lang.
Excuse me, sir. Biduya po, sir.
Bebo,
Excuse me, sir. Biduya po, sir.
noted. Kadali lang Diyos ha.
Thank you po, sir.
Si Trisha, si Arian, napod si Kimberly. Okay na, Kimberly. Yes, Kimberly, okay na?
Excuse me, sir. Kanang mga na lang unta ko, sir, kung unsa may oras bitaw mag-take ko niya hapon sa
Anytime later this afternoon. Pwede ba? Ha?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sige. So kung wala na may questions, no? I guess that's all for today. No? Wala tayo for mga no? Anyway, thank you so much, guys, no, for wonderful semester, and we'll see each other again. Maybe din sa campus, and see each other again in mid-year. Basit ma-finalize na ang teaching load na ako para mid-year. Kita pa. Yan daw na nain yung mga instructional materials. Anyway, sige. Thank you so much, guys, no, and see you around. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Recording
Bye,
stopped.
sir.